ISV of the Month webinar. Today we have Alicia from eOne, and she will be talking about SmartView, enabling SmartList users with faster, easier, more intuitive reporting. Just for a few housekeeping items, we'll go through the introduction, let you know who's on the line today, and then if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the question panel on the right side of your webinar, and we will read all the questions out loud at the end of the presentation. We will also be recording this webinar, so if you have any questions or would like to see the recording, we'll send that out to you afterwards.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to introduce you. That's fine.
Perfect.
All right. So this is Alicia from eOne, and she'll go ahead and start the webinar.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys. So we're obviously here to see SmartView. I like to refer to SmartView as SmartList on steroids, because once you see it, you're going to wonder, why on earth have I ever used SmartList this long? And even as somebody who maybe your CEO or the owner of your company is going to think, why in the world do I have my users spending hours waiting for SmartList when there's another product out there that can make it a lot easier and faster to be able to view those smart lists. So SmartList, in a nutshell, is a fast and flexible interface to all existing smart lists. So what's the difference? What's the difference between the smart list that you receive from Microsoft and the SmartView that you receive from eOne? So SmartList, like I said, is available with GP. It's your basic reporting tool. It's what a lot of people use. It's slow. It has those limited filters to just those 4 filters, and it also returns just that limited data. SmartView is available from eOne, obviously. It completely replaces SmartList. So when you start using SmartView, you don't need to use SmartList any longer. We have unlimited filters. You don't have to export to Excel to get totals to your screen, so you're able to see those totals right to your screen. There's easy grouping and subgrouping. We have export to Excel in seconds. You can see your list without a GP user license. So what that means is that we have an internal and an external component to SmartView. So the external component sits on your desktop and is an application that allows you to be able to see all those lists without having to have that GP user license. You can see lists that you've created with SmartList Builder, and you can open more than one instance. So if you want to see more than one list at a time, SmartView has that capability. And for you, people that like to have a visual reference, this is what I like to reference SmartList with and compare that to SmartView. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm not going to waste any more time inside of slides here. Let's go right into the product, SmartView itself. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in SmartList, which a lot of you are familiar with. This is that CAN tool, like I said before. And I'm going to open up our count transactions here. I'm just going to have this return, do 50,000 records. I think there's only like 20-some thousand in here. And click OK here. We can see that that's going to return some data for us. At the same time, I'm going to open up our tool called SmartView. I'm going to open up the same list. And on the lower left-hand side here, I'm going to return all of our records as well. So you notice right off the bat that we don't have a record count up, but here we can see that we just returned 22,000 line items in 6 seconds. If we go back to SmartList, we're not even to 10,000 records yet. So you can kind of see the speed comparison there. I mean, you're taking an hour to pull a list. Let's say you're leaving for a lunch break, you're having a coffee break when you're starting a list app. You're not going to have to do that with SmartView. I know it might make socializing a little less, but you'll definitely have those reports a lot quicker. So let's go ahead and take an overview of what SmartView looks like. So you can see it looks similar to SmartList, right? You have all of your lists here on your left-hand side, those can lists that you get from Microsoft, as well as any lists that were built with SmartList Builder. So you're going to see all those lists here on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, you're going to have all of your columns that are associated with those lists. On the lower left-hand side, you guys did see me earlier select the amount of records that I wanted to return. If you wanted to obviously return less records or more records, this is where you would have that saved to. Okay, let's just go ahead and look at a few other things before I go ahead and show you more in depth here. So we do have a few age trial balances. So if you wanted to see the age as of date, let's say age as of June 13th, for example, that's on your screen, you could certainly do that. Let's go ahead and let's go to new sales line items here. And we'll go into more of our grouping and subgrouping that I had mentioned. So we can see here that I only have, by default, customer number and a few other columns here to choose from. I'm going to go ahead and add a salesperson ID, and this is actually just a drag and drop here. Let's add a sales territory as well. Okay. And now I want to go ahead and rearrange these. So I'm just going to move them around here. I can move my columns in the order that I like. So it's not going into SmartList, clicking up, moving or down, moving those columns around. It's simply just dragging them where I want them to be and dropping them there. So I'm going to actually group by salesperson ID and then a subgroup by sales territory. And then I'm going to collapse these all so it's easier for me to show you here. So we can see here that we group, subgroup. We're seeing totals to our screen. Remember, we don't need to export this to Excel now. In the same way, if I want to do the sum like I'm doing now, if I wanted to return a min, a max, a count, or even average this number out, I can do that all on my screen without having to export to Excel. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at Aaron in Territory 7. So you also have the abilities to have those go-tos, those drill backs still with the SmartView internal, so you can obviously drill back into this invoice. Also, if you wanted to, we can filter. Remember how I said you can have those unlimited amount of filters? We can do that by going here to this edit button, and here is where we would enter those unlimited amount of filters. The other thing I want to show you here is that you can add conditions. You can add a group as well. The other thing I like to show, do I have a date on here? Let's add a document date onto here. So that way I can just show you that as well. You can also add conditional things too. So like as of today's date, or let's see, is yesterday, is today, is this last week, is this earlier this month, etc. So I like to be able to use that, let's say, for any sales that came in this whole month. So we're able to track on those date and time operators as well. Okay, so once again, add as many as you want. You're not limited to just those 4 filters. Okay, so I had also mentioned that we can export to Excel. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to save this to my desktop. I'll call it Artists. And the thing I wanted to show you here is that we keep that formatting. So we kept those groupings and those subgroupings. The other thing that's really neat is if I wanted to copy one of these, I can copy this entire line and send it in an email send it to my accountant saying, hey, can you check on this invoice number for me? Or We can also copy just that specific field value as well and paste that wherever you'd like. Okay, let's go ahead and move across the top of my screen here. So you can see that we're in our home now. Let's go into our go-tos. This has the same go-tos that you would see inside a SmartList where you can create those. Underneath our options tab, we have the option to give ourselves a little bit more real estate. So whether that's getting rid of our lists or getting rid of our columns, you can see now that we have our whole screen and a whole new area of real estate to work with. We have different ways to find our data. So if you wanted to just type in here anything here, let's go 308. Oops. It's going to return anything that's on my screen that contains the number 308 in it. So just some easier ways to find your data as well outside of filtering that data down. Makes this a lot more user-friendly, a lot less time looking for that information. The other cool thing too here is if you're a SmartList Builder owner, right from the screen you're able to modify or create a new SmartList as well. Okay, I'm going to go back into my home screen here, and what I want to do now is I want to show you how easy it is to add a favorite. So let's go ahead and click on Add, and we'll call this Artists. And now what I want to do is I want to assign this possibly to different roles in my office, different SmartView users in my office. So for instance, how we use this internally is, let's say I create a list that my accountant and I share. So she has her own SmartView user. I'm able to create the list and just share that view specifically with her. So what that does is it takes a lot of time out of your IT user as well, and then obviously dedicate them to things other than just modifying SmartLists or being able to create that user or share those views with other users as well. Same instance, if I wanted to assign this to a user, I certainly could. In this instance, I'm going to do all users. And if you wanted to have this list specific to one company, or if you have multiple companies, you can go ahead and do that here. So I'm going to go to all companies. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And you can see now that I have that favorite created for artists. Okay, so earlier I had mentioned that there's an internal and an external component to SmartView. What you just saw was the internal version, right? So you're going to have that ability to use those go-tos, as well as open up those drill backs here. If you're somebody or a company that wants to use it strictly for reporting, which most people do, they want to use, they don't want their owner of their company inside of GP. Accountants are very strict at who they want inside a GP, and it's certainly not your owner, especially at eOne. We just want him to know where his sales are and what his revenue is coming in for the day. So we have him assigned to SmartView External. And so that's going to keep him out of GP, but it's going to still give him the reports that he wants. So if we wanted to, like I said, if he wanted to look at customer items or customer addresses, certainly could. The biggest differences here are that you're not going to be able to double click on one of those line items, bring you back into GP, obviously, because it doesn't take that GP user. And you're just going to have tick boxes here on the side in order to add those columns on. Otherwise, everything else is going to be the same. You're still going to be able to drag and drop, group, subgroup, etc. All right. Let's see here. That is SmartView in a nutshell. It is probably one of the easiest tools you'll ever find to use. It's probably going to save you the most time. And like I said, just overall use on this is extremely friendly. It doesn't take hardly any training at all to learn how to use this. So I'm going to actually wrap it up here. And this is a common question that I get. So everything starts with Smart, right? So you have SmartList, SmartView, SmartList Builder. And so we get a lot of confusion over what do I need, what don't I need. So essentially, like I said before, SmartList is available with GP, but SmartView replaces SmartList. Now, SmartView does not replace SmartList Builder because you still need something, or you still need a tool to be able to build a custom smart list, right? Being able to grab more data than just what Microsoft gives you in those lists. So you're still going to need Smart List Builder, but then you can view that inside of SmartView. Okay. Let's go over some pricing. SmartView is $2,500 plus 17.5% maintenance per year. Interdyne Artist is running a $500 off promo through June 30th. One thing I want to mention here too is that we have a free 30-day trial of SmartView Internal. You can actually grab right off of our website, or you can have Interdyne Artist help you with that as well. That'll, like I said, work 30 days without any keys. You're able to use it in your own system as well. So you can see, you'll be able to see firsthand the time savings that you're having with SmartView. All right, so Chelsea, Aaron, I'm going to open it up for questions right now. And actually, I'm going to start by feeding one question that I get a lot, and that is around SmartView security. Because a lot of people sometimes wonder, how do I set up security since there's not a GP user? So for SmartView security, it actually follows SmartList security. So you're still going to need to grant access to those physical SmartView windows, just like you would any other window in SmartView. And by default, only the power users have that access. For external users, you would need to set up a new user that isn't the same as the current GP user. So once you have that set up, you need to assign it to some type of security and map it to a specific user or role that has that right security, and then grant whatever access and companies you want them to have access to. And the reason we do those external users is because Microsoft encrypts those passwords, so we're not able to reuse that password. So that's why you have to set up that different user. All right. So if there are any more questions, I can certainly answer those now.
Okay, perfect. We do have a few. The first question is, can you pull data from multiple companies at the same time?
Right. So you would actually have to do that with SmartList Builder. So you're still going to have to, by default, SmartView doesn't do multi-company or pull lists from multi-companies. You would still need to build that list within SmartList Builder, and then you would view that inside of SmartView.
Okay. And to build off of that, what is the pricing for SmartList Builder?
Sure. SmartList Builder is $19.50. They actually, or Interdyne Artist actually has an additional promo going on for that as well. So that's $500 off as well. So actually, if you buy SmartList Builder and SmartView with each of those $500 discounts, it's less expensive than our bundled price. So, so that's a pretty good deal right now.
Okay, perfect. And this is a question that was asked before you answered it, but they did ask what's the cost per user. So if you could just tell them that it's the package price versus the user price.
Yep, absolutely. So touching on both SmartList Builder and SmartView, it's a site license, so you have unlimited amount of users. So if you have 200 users in your company, they would all have access to that for the same price. It's just a site license.
Okay, perfect. And I believe that's all the questions we have. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for attending today's webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Erin Daniels, or Chelsea Flepp. And again, we will send the recording to you as soon as we can. All right. Thank you, everyone.